Is it possible to have confidence in surrendering? And how do you even have confidence in surrendering if you don't even know which direction to go, or if you don't know what's going to happen, or how the situation is going to work itself out? How is it actually possible that you can have confidence and be surrendering at the same time to the will of God? How is that possible, whether it's in life, family, or even in business? How is that possible? I've been up since about 5 o'clock this morning, and I've been having some really intense, wonderful conversations with different people. And we all are going through different seasons in life. Am I right? Everyone is going through some sort of a season right now where we're just trying to figure out either the direction to go or who are we in this season, right? We all are to some degree. And this morning, really got put in my heart, Proverbs 31. I'm going to read this a little bit, just talk about it. But in Proverbs 31, I thought about that wife, the wife of noble character. Now, you don't have to be a wife to even listen to, this verse and what I'm about to read, but just kind of pick up the concept from this. And many people believe these were the sayings of King Lemuel. Some people believe that that was Solomon, that this is what his mother taught to him. So whether you believe this was Solomon's mother or not, that's up to you. You can look that up on your own. But let's get to the meat of what this is about. The wife of noble character, this woman was absolutely amazing. I'm going to jump to the part in here that really touches my heart the most. It says that in verse 21, when it snows, she has no fear for her household. And it says all of them are clothed in scarlet, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And here's the part that I really love. It talks about how in verse 25, she is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. How is it possible that you can laugh at the days to come? Like, how many people do you know? Let's just have a family talk at this point, you all. How many people do you know can laugh at the days to come? In order to be able to laugh at the days to come, you have to be so certain that God is with you and that all is well. In fact, I'm reading a really good book about that. I've been up since 5 this morning going through this amazing book on that subject matter. But you have to be so certain that all is well no matter what happens. You have to be so certain that I know that God loves me. I know that He's with me. And I know that in all things, right? I'm referring to Romans, I think 8:28, and all things, right, is going to work out. You have to be so certain. This woman can laugh at the days to come. So, in other words, I don't care what you bring my way. I'm going to sit back because I know who I belong to and who I'm with. And I know who's over all and in all. And even though this situation may look this way, or maybe I was a little anxious or a little afraid or just stressed or just don't even know direction to go, I can laugh at the days to come because no matter what comes my way, God is with me. That fire is within me, and I can laugh at the days to come. You all think about that for just a moment. And I want you to ask yourself right now, and this is not me preaching to anybody. You all know that I don't have a church. When I say I don't have a church, I'm not a ordained minister that, runs some big congregation or whatever. I am just a woman who on my best day, I mess up, right? But I do love God and I do my best to encourage you all. I want you all to be thinking through your own lives right now. Can you honestly sit there right now and say, you know what? My confidence and my faith and my trust in God is to a point where I can actually laugh at the days to come, no matter what comes my way. She can laugh at the days to come. Let's examine this woman a little bit more, and then I'm going to look at one or two other passages. I'm going to close this out. So I pray to God that this helps someone today. So let's look at it in Proverbs 31. And again, I don't think this matters if you're a man or a woman or married or not. Let's just focus on the concept of what this is all about. There is a confidence that we can get from being surrendered. And here's what I thought. I thought that surrendered sort of meant you really kind of sit back and don't do nothing and you just kind of wait for God to figure it all out for you. Anybody ever thought that before? At least that's what I used to think, that you just you almost are like in a helpless position, of just, okay, I guess, whatever the Lord's going to do, He going to do. I guess I just sit back and I guess I just accept whatever. I don't really think that that's the actual definition, at least from what I'm getting from this of being surrendered. In order to get to the point where you can laugh at the days to come, let's look at this lady. What I love about her, starts off, it says, she's a woman of noble character. Her husband has full confidence in her. And it goes on to say, she selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She's like a merchant ship bringing her food from afar. So wait a minute, this woman is actually not just sitting and just accepting whatever. She's actually out there putting her talents and gifts to work and doing the best she knows to do in that moment with what to do. Does that make sense, you all? She's actually busy. Verse 15 says she gets up while it is still dark. She provides food for her family. That's interesting to me. She gets up while it is still dark. I'm sure, I can only imagine, because I get up when it's pretty dark. I get up very, very early in the morning. I try to get up a few hours before I've got to leave the house because I like sitting in that space of just sitting before God and visualizing my day, praying with Him. And to be honest with you, just sitting and being still in His presence. I can't help but think that this woman is just spending precious time with God in silence. It's almost like sitting with your father before the day even begins. So she gets up while it is still dark. Verse 16, she considers a field and buys it, and out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. So this woman is also like a businesswoman. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you have to be a businesswoman to be godly, but I think what's amazing is this visualization of who this amazing woman is she wasn't just sitting helpless or hopeless. She still was out there doing what she knew to do. And it says she considers the field, she buys it out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. Verse 17, she sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her task. Look at verse 18. She sees that her trading is profitable. Look at all these amazing things about this woman. And then it goes on to talk about in verse 20, she opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. You see this well-rounded life that she had. I'm still on the subject matter of confidence in being surrendered. I'm still on that subject matter, but let's look at the whole picture and what that looks like. She's a giver. She actually cares about people. She's not just focused on herself or her circumstances. And one of my favorite verses, verse 21, when it snows, she has no fear for her household. How is it that you can have no fear for your household? You all know I'm a mother of 4, right? Well, my kids are adults now, but even still, I'm still a mother, right? How is it that you can have such peace and surrenderedness and such calmness that even no matter what your kids are going through, right? No matter what, she has no fear. And it goes on to say, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. Now, I did a little bit of research on this, and some people believe that represents the blood of Christ. That color, symbolizes warmth and comfort, and that's what in other words, like she's covered them in prayer. Does that make sense? Like she's covered them in prayer. She's covered them with the blood of Jesus. So all of her kids all of them, it says, are clothed in scarlet. And it's almost as if she knows a secret that many people don't know. She knows if God be for you, then who can be against you? She knows that the enemy is actually very limited. I talked about that in my book, Necessary. He doesn't get to just show up and do whatever he wants to do in your life. It doesn't work like that. It reminds me, and I wasn't even planning on reading this, but I'm going to read one little passage from Necessary. For many of you don't know, God wrote this book through me, starting in the middle of the night years ago, woke me up and showed me the cover and everything and told me I would be writing this book. But it reminds me when I wrote chapter 1, and many people don't know, I wrote chapter 1. I went back and rewrote chapter 1 after my son had passed away unexpectedly. And I had to go back and write this again, and it was totally written in the spirit. But there's a part in here where I say, let me just turn to it really quickly. On page 9, and this chapter is titled A Letter to the Enemy, Part 1. This is when I was addressing the enemy. Your greatest mistake was leaving me on my knees in the presence of my father. That's where you really messed up. In your arrogance, you forgot who was my overseer. As you celebrated the roles you played during some of the worst seasons of my life, you forgot who knew the ending before the beginning. Somehow you failed to notice. Before the curtains were open, before your scenes began, before you played your wicked, evil role in my life, I was already predestined for greatness. It's as if she knew that secret. I'm going to read on a little bit more just because I feel called to do it. You messed up when you left me on my knees feeling insecure, fearful, weak, alone, unsure of who I was and doubting my gifts and talents. It was in those painful, lonely seasons that I began to sit in the presence of my Father and recognize his voice and words of wisdom. He whispers. I guess I never sat long enough to realize he actually whispers to me. I had no idea I could be strong in my weakest moments because his power is made perfect in weakness, as 2 Corinthians 12:9. I had no idea I could grow from dark places because he commands his angels concerning me, as Psalm 91:11-12. And I had no idea it was possible to have great peace in the middle of my storms because God is able to give me peace that surpasses all understanding. And that's Philippians 4:6-7. So I thank you for leaving me on my knees, because without your help, I never would have sat still long enough to discover that all along, my Father was trying to speak to me. That's just a little excerpt. I wouldn't even plan on reading from my book, Necessary. Let's get back to the Proverbs 31 woman. So when it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. And it says, if she knew the secret, she knew that the enemy was limited. I'm sure she understood 1 John 4:4, the one who is in us is greater than the one who is in the world. Then it goes on to verse 24. So it's not like she stopped just because of stuff going on in her household. It goes on, she makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. This woman was about her work. She was busy. She was doing things. Look at this, verse 25. She's clothed with strength and dignity. And this is my favorite part. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom and faithful instructions is on her tongue. I just love this. I love everything about this entire passage. I love the ending. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. She's clothed with strength and dignity. I want you all to just think about that for a moment. I want us all to think about it. She's clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. You all, this is the kind of confidence and surrendering, being surrendered that I want us all to seek and to have. I am not going to sit here and put on a show as if I have arrived and I have it all together. I still work on these things, you all. I'm working on some of these things now. I didn't know exactly what I was going to talk about in this episode. I was praying right before filming this, and I was just like, God, what is it that I can deliver to your people? He put in my heart, how about you talk through the things you're going through now? People need authenticity. They need to hear and know they're not in this alone, that I'm with them. There needs to be this confidence that can only come from knowing whose you are, from knowing that God is with you. That Philippians 4:6, and let's turn to it really quickly. I'm not going to talk to you all for too long, but let's go to Philippians 4:6. What is it? Go eat popcorn. That's how I remember the passage. So go eat popcorn. So here is Philippians. And if you all are listening to my podcast episode, when I say go eat popcorn, that's Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, just so you know. So Philippians 4:6 teaches us, oh my God, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And then if you keep on reading, he'll tell you what to start thinking about. Whatever is true and noble and right and pure and lovely and admirable, probably saying that word wrong. Anything that's excellent or praiseworthy, the Bible teaches us to think about such things. You all think about that just for a moment. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything with prayer and petition. We all know what prayer is. And I don't even know if sometimes we realize, and this is what I work on quite a bit. Prayer is not just sitting there babbling on and on and on with all of our requests. A huge part of my prayer life is just sitting in silence before God. You all, sometimes I don't know what to do. Sometimes I just sit with him. I literally, and I know this is going to weird some people out, but if you all been following my podcast for a while, you know this is how I am. I literally picture myself sitting there and Jesus sitting on a bench next to me. And for some reason, I always see Japanese cherry blossom trees. And I even wrote about that in my book, Necessary. But we're literally looking there. And somehow, I think I wrote this in one of my chapters titled When God, it may be in the chapter title When God Says No, Can He Still Be Your God? It's in one of those chapters. But somehow, as I look at all these beautiful Japanese cherry blossom trees, as I'm sitting there next to Jesus, I can't explain it, but somehow all is well. Every season of my life, the good seasons, the bad seasons, every season of my life. And many of you all know many of the seasons that I've been through. When difficult times in marriage, good times in marriage, difficult times with kids. Try raising 4 kids, all of them just about 2 years apart. And one always was in the hospital. Unfortunately, he passed away, but always in the hospital every other month. Sometimes every month we're in the hospital. This is for almost his entire life. So just picture that for a moment. Financial seasons up and down, right? But somehow when I'm sitting there with the Lord and I'm looking at it, all of it is beautiful. I know that sounds weird. And I know some people may not get that. Like, how on earth can you say it's all beautiful? It's not that the situations that happen to me in life, I mean, I've written about this, how we moved 22 times in 1 year, how all the abuse I saw my mother went through. And we went through just so much. I think about my whole childhood. And I think a lot of that is at the front of my brain right now because I was with a dear friend last night. And she's, anyway, I won't get into all of that, but she's certified in really helping people dig deep into their past and be healed and all this and that. She's just amazing. She's a minister and knows a lot about that stuff. And she spent hours with me. So I think that's at the forefront of my brain. But when I look at all of that, somehow, only when I'm sitting next to the Lord, let me just be clear. Somehow it's all beautiful. It's almost as if I can see him working behind the scenes and who's that person I became on the other side of that. Does that make sense? Like it's almost as if, and it's weird to say it like this. And again, we're talking about the confidence in being surrendered, but it's almost as if you can see the hand of God at work, but only in hindsight. And sometimes you can't even see it in hindsight. I believe there are certain things that we've gone through. We won't even understand it until we get to heaven on that great day and it's explained to us. I just do. Some things I just don't have an answer for. But all of it seems to be beautiful. So when I think about this lady in Proverbs 31, whether she was a real person or not, you biblical scholars can answer that. But I think about how amazing is that to live a life where you can laugh at the days to come because you're just at peace with whatever God allows to happen. It kind of reminds you of Job. That entire time when Job was going through what he was going through in those 42 or so chapters, it's not like Job was really doing something wrong for the most part, right? Depending on how you view his story. But the enemy was roaming around back and forth looking for someone to devour. And God said to him, "Have you considered my servant Job?" You all get my point? So when God said that and allowed Job to go through all of that, stuff, I'll just put it like that, for 30 some chapters, it was just Job was either complaining and being disgusted with everything he was going through, or his friends was saying, "You must have done something wrong." It's pretty much what his friends was telling him. And that's why at the end in chapter 42 or so, God told Job, "You got to pray for your friends. I'm about to bless you, but you got to pray for them because what they said of me is not right." And I just love that. I think a lot of times we miss chapter 42. I know I'm deviating a minute, but you guys just follow me on that. I think we miss it because in the seasons when we're going through these trying times, many times we think we did something wrong. Maybe I made a wrong decision. I made a wrong turn. Maybe God, I didn't hear you right. Because if I heard you right, then I wouldn't be going through this. You guys get my point? It's not the case. That's not always the case. I don't even think it's biblical to think that way. I'm reading a really good book that's talking about that. But I don't want to give the name of that book because I'm not done reading and I want to make sure, I finish reading the book before I go making a recommendation. But it's not the case. God said, "Have you considered him?" But God knew the ending before the beginning. So is that how we can laugh at the days to come? Is that how we can have the confidence in being surrendered? My whole point in doing this episode with you all, I don't do podcast episodes just to do them. I want to encourage my brothers and sisters all around the world. I want you all to be drawn closer to God. I want you all to be a light to represent him in every area of your life. I know we go through ups and downs and difficult times. I know that. I'm human. I may be the one doing this podcast episode, but I'm human as well. I'm human. But I want us all to be drawn to Christ, and I want us all to have something that a way that we're sharing our lives and we're drawing closer and closer to Him, and even through our difficult seasons, right? There's good that's coming out of that, and there's a confidence in being surrendered to God. Whatever you decide, I'm gonna trust and know that you have my best intentions in mind, and even more importantly, let me say this: your best intentions are in mind. I'm gonna read one last point. I'm gonna close this out. I'm gonna turn to I would, and again, I honest to God was not even planning on reading anything from my book, but let me find this part that I wrote here. In my book, Necessary, A Letter to the Enemy, Part Two. This is at the end when I was visiting my son's gravesite. I want to read the end of what I wrote in this chapter, and then at the end of each chapter, there's a reflection. I just want to read one little part of this reflection. So at the end of, I think this is on page 275. This is called A Letter to the Enemy, Part Two. I ended this chapter by saying to the enemy, so thank you once again for playing your role. Thank you for the thorns you placed in my path. Your evil intentions have only pushed me closer to God. And the closer I get to Him, the more I become His reflection. The more I reflect His image, the more nations are drawn to the light they see in me. And the more the nations are drawn to the light, the more they become God's reflection. When you attack me, you attack my Father. Somehow you must have forgotten He has never lost a battle and He never will. You can no longer hurt me. I'm already dead. Dead to myself, alive in Christ. And this is a reflection. I'm just going to read this and I'll close out. Oh, God, give me strength. I visited my son's gravesite before writing this chapter today. I needed to be reminded that life is short, and that's James 4:14. God has kept us here for a divine purpose, and we must let Him use us for His glory. Before I left the cemetery, I whispered into his gravesite, "Son, Mama has to go now." While Mama is still above ground, Mama has work to do. I got to go help other people who are hurting to find hope in God. To God be the glory. I love you all. You're listening to Unlocking Greatness podcast with Zenja Glass. I pray you've been encouraged.